Well, welcome back. Thursday, April 2nd, 2026. I am Seth Leibsohn, and wanted to take this opportunity because our good buddy George Khalaf was in the neighborhood, and I asked him to stop by for the hour and take some calls with us, with you if you want, because we aren't going to be on the air tomorrow, which is when George is usually with us. In any event, George Khalaf is a political consultant extraordinaire with the Resolute Group, a pollster with Data Orbital, and he himself is running for State House of Representatives here in Arizona, Legislative District 3. You can go to his website, georgekhalaf.com, KHALAF.com. Hello, my friend.
How are you, Seth? It's been a while since I've been able to be in studio taking calls. It's exciting.
So fun. 602-508-0960 on the AZ Mobile Chiropractic Hotline. If you have any questions about politics, George is the guru. 602-580-960. We're happy to take your calls. Let me first say to you, George, on a day like today, Maundy Thursday it's called. Mm-hmm. Not Monday, but Maundy.
Yes.
And knowing you to be such a man of faith, I want to wish you a meaningful and happy Maundy Thursday. And then the weekend, of course, which is just pregnant with meaning.
Look, I always tell people this, and a lot of people get surprised. My favorite, I don't know, holiday is not an appropriate way of calling it, but my favorite day of the year is Good Friday. Mm. And as a Lebanese Christian in the tradition that I grew up, it's solemn, and it's a very sincere reminder of the depth of the sacrifice that Jesus made for us in dying on the cross. And that, to me, is critical to proceed, necessity to proceed. Resurrection Sunday. Why? Because if he hadn't willingly gone to the cross, then he would never have been able to conquer death and in turn conquer our sin and sort of died on our behalf. And so this is this entire week is, this entire season, frankly, I've really been leaning in prayer this week, this Thursday, then tomorrow with Good Friday, then, what's traditionally known as the Saturday of Light, and then Easter Sunday. It is very exciting. You go on social media, and more of my feed than usual is about sort of preachers, priests, pastors, and prior sort of some of their top line speeches. I've been seeing a lot.
I've been seeing a lot of it all week. You bet.
Alistair Begg's speech about
the
man in the middle cross told me to be here. What an amazing! Every time I say that phrase, literally, my I get goosebumps, and it is very important. What a holy week indeed, and it is a critical reminder with all that's happening in our world and that happens in our daily lives to stop and truly, truly feel the weight of God's promise for us. It's so important.
Yeah, the whole week, the whole time period, this whole moment is blanketed with meaning, especially as it's crossing over with Passover as well for the Jewish community. I was thinking about Maundy Thursday. It means mandate, and the mandate, of course, is to love one another, which is a good thing to think about anyway, regardless of your religious affiliation
yes.
or your level of observance. It's good to know that we are all commanded to do a better job of loving one another. And it seems like our politics of late has driven us further and further apart into actually hating one another, which is not good for politics or people. Is that a fair thing to say?
Of course. Look, we spend so much time on here, Seth, together, and you do every day throughout the week, talking about these issues, these ideals that we oppose, and we oppose them vehemently. But the point is to oppose the issue and the ideal. And look, there are some, I don't want to just say bad actors. There are some people that truly, and frankly, and unfortunately, the number is growing, in the, what I like to call the academic progressive left or progressive left that do, in fact, they do hate Christians,
yeah.
and I don't use that word hate lightly.
No, I know.
And I get tested often. How do I respond when I do genuinely feel that there are people that hate me, hate what I stand for, hate you, Seth, hate what you stand for? So many of the listeners. How do we respond to that?
Hate has really increased in ways that it never was here, or at least hasn't been here in something like maybe 80 years. And it's the last almost respectable form of prejudice, and I don't mean respectable in the sense of it deserves respect. I mean respectable in the sense that the media seems to be blithe about it, and it's about Christians, and it's against Christians, and certainly I don't think I have to make the case lately about Jews either. And you know, hate and politics is so meaningfully important to me, especially this time of day. I never stop talking about the fact that my hero, and I think America's hero, Abraham Lincoln, was shot on Good Friday and died on Easter weekend. And I always tell the story of very famous political science professor Clinton Rossiter at Cornell, I think at the time, said, taking note of that Abraham Lincoln was the Christ martyr of America's democratic passion play, which is just such an importantly and poetically beautiful way of summarizing what Lincoln stood for, but also when we think about what you just said, what hate in politics can lead to. The ultimate form of censorship, assassination.
Yeah.
Assassination, of which our movement has seen too much of lately, too.
Of course, in our direction. And look, I don't want anyone to misunderstand and think that we shouldn't be vehemently in opposition. And frankly, every passing day I get more convicted, I get more passionate about my conservatism, about my faith, and I want to speak louder and bolder. So this is not to say, to not hate the person, or as Christians, how do we respond to that hate, that we just sort of like lie down and, no, we fight back. There's no doubt. We are called to fight.
Muscular Christianity is a phrase I've heard, yeah.
I am not at all, and not only am I not counseling against that, I'm like, this is not, I would be a hypocrite, because my conduct every day is to fight back against those ideals and things that I think are abhorrent, that come after our children and the family and women and all of these things. We just have to do it in the right way. Yeah. That's it. I mean, we can be vehement. I can be vehement in my opposition to our governor, to our attorney general, to our secretary of state, to Democrats in the House and Senate. I don't have to hate them, and I can think that I absolutely disagree with almost every single word that comes out of their mouth, and I 100% disagree with the way that they even talk about us. But I think that the big test, and this is something that I ponder, this is a Bible verse that I've pondered often, especially during political years. There's a Bible verse where Paul, one of the most famous sort of authors in the Bible, that talks about the thorn in his side, and he prays to God to remove that thorn. And essentially God's response is, but if the thorn is removed, the whole point of the thorn is that your response would glorify me, that you would then not be reliant upon yourself, that you would need me. And I feel that every day. I don't just sometimes have thorns in my side. I feel like I have thorns in my eyes. And I know you've felt the same. And so all that we're saying is that our response should be able to model that, but we need to be vehement. We can be fighters. We can fight for our values. We can be convicted. We do not have to moderate or compromise or any of those things. We just have to do it in the right way. That's all that I think needs to be done. And frankly, what I think the average person responds, because I get great feedback even from those that I know don't ideologically agree with me, but you just kind of say it. You have to say it how it is, and you can't be shy about it.
We'll get to the news of the day in a few minutes. We're talking with George Khalaf. I just want to stay on this a moment longer, this notion of hate in politics. One of the greatest, you like rhetoric like I like rhetoric, one of the greatest extemporaneous speeches of all time, or at least of the last 100 years perhaps, was Richard Nixon's farewell speech to his White House staff. It's available on YouTube. If you haven't seen it, it's a tour de force. It's not the speech he gave from the Oval Office the night before when he announced his resignation. It was the speech he gave the next day to the staff, extemporaneous. And it has all the melodrama that one could imagine in this moment. And he concludes, I pulled up the transcript just to get it exactly right. He says, "Always remember, others may hate you, but those who hate you don't win unless you hate them, and then you destroy yourself," which was an autobiographical comment of his. He was known as a great hater himself, and he's now realized the full denouement of his political career, that it was his hate that was his own Achilles heel, that was his own downfall. But that phrase, I think, is important regardless of who said it or what it meant for him to say it. Others may hate you, but those who hate you don't win unless you hate them, and then you destroy yourself. I think that's an important lesson, and it kind of wraps up nicely some of what you were saying.
Yeah, it takes took me a while to understand that great power comes from a wise response. I learned that from two key people in my life. My father, whose power did not come from his anger, and my wife, Brianna, who is very powerful but does it in the right way.
Yeah.
There's a lot of lessons to be learned with that wisdom that came to President Nixon,
You bet.
near the end.
We have found the perfect song for Maundy Thursday that we will come back with. I'm Seth Leibsohn. He's George Khalaf. Feel free to call in on anything on your mind, politics. 602-508-0960 on the Easy Mobile Chiropractic Hotline. George Khalaf and I will be right back. The Youngbloods, right? 68, 69, something like that?
Well, it was recorded much earlier, but it reached the chart status in 69.
Yeah.
I believe it was recorded in 67.
It's called Get Together.
That's right. Yeah.
Learn to love one another right now. Isn't that the perfect song for Maundy Thursday, George?
It is.
George, who loves my music.
I just don't understand most of it, but it is always good. I shouldn't say I don't understand. I don't know most of it, but it is always good music.
It's like me listening to someone talking sports. Is that what it is? I understand the words, just not what they mean and what it all means.
Yeah, I guess so.
George Khalaf is my guest. We'll get to his own race in a minute. Let's talk about some politics of the day. George, I was... it's fine. It's fine that Donald Trump gave the speech from the White House last night that he did. And as we've discussed before, I just don't know what it might accomplish. And that's not his fault. It's good for a president to give a White House address on the networks in a time of war. It's of course a good thing to do. But I just think that 50% of those who are even aware of what the goings on are just, it won't matter. They will either ignore it or find some reason to condemn it or criticize it. And that's an unfortunate thing in our politics right now. I don't think there's anything he can say or do that will ever really get him lifted above 51%, no matter what it is. Am I right or am I wrong?
We are very divided. The president's numbers have always he's largely been underwater. And that came right before he won a resounding victory in 2024. Right. So it really is almost separated. I mean, there's so many things that surround President Trump that we're probably never going to see again.
Right.
He is so unique in the way that he, people used to call, President Reagan the Teflon president. I mean, President Trump is Teflon in a supercharged. I don't even know.
Yeah. It's nuclear Teflon.
It is. Yeah. And part of that is that we're just super divided as a country. And look, the war is. It is. I very rarely disagree, and it's not even like I'm necessarily disagreeing with you, Seth, but the amount of people that is talking to me about this, I don't know if it's only 50% that understand the goings on. I think that this war is in everyone's face. If for no other reason, then the left is linking it to gas. Yeah. And when in Arizona gas is above $5, I was driving down to our office down Thomas. This is not California. California gas is at $8 now, but in general, we don't see $5 gas. We understand that look. Less than 2% of our oil comes to the Strait of Hormuz. It's all about sort of speculative trading and risk and volatility and da-da-da. And gas did peak tremendously during the beginning of the Ukraine-Russia dynamic. But there's a lot that's wrapped up in what's happening. And I think
is there anything more important to a political party in power than the price of gas come election time?
The price of gas and just staple items, because it's in everyone's face, right? Everyone is consuming, whether you're super wealthy or you're not. You're consuming gas, you're buying milk, you're buying eggs, you're buying bread. It's the staples, right? And gas is just considered that, even though you don't obviously consume it. You consume it in your car and everyone has to drive. I will also say in Arizona, public transportation is a fraction. There's no metro. There's we don't have the same sort of way that people in different income brackets move. We just all travel by car. It just is what it is, and so it's disproportionately important. I think the dynamic with the war and why I think the president needed to do what he did is there is an amount of flexing that America has to do to say okay, we are achieving victory or we will achieve victory, or giving some sort of conclusionary feeling. Because what everyone's tense about is is this going to end in 3 weeks, or is this? And again, with President Trump, I don't think the answer is the latter, which is, or is this going to be a 10-year thing? Yeah, right. Is this Iraq? Right? Are we going to be there for perpetuity. That's not ever what President Trump campaigned on. And again, whether you love or don't love what the president's done, you know for sure, like, what he says he does.
It's not in his DNA to have that kind of war.
Right?
We know that. Everyone knows
what he says he does. And so that's not the case, but there's still anxiety in terms of like, oh, when is it going to wrap up? When is it going to wrap up? We're still in April. And so there's a long time until November. But I think that's what a lot of people are just trying to like, wade through, whether you're an average citizen or you're someone who, like me, is looking at, and like you, and looking and analyzing what does this mean for the election.
Yeah, thank you. George Khalaf is our guest, political consultant, candidate himself, 602-508-0960 on the AZ Mobile Chiropractic Hotline. If you have any question about politics for George, he's the man to ask. Pam Bondi is leaving the Department of Justice as our U.S. Attorney General. I guess she would have been on my bingo card of one of two who I thought would be next. And it's not that often that attorney generals leave against their will, although some successful presidencies have seen that happen. Ronald Reagan, Ed Meese had to leave against his will at one point as attorney general. I don't know exactly what to say about it. Lee Zeldin is the name people are saying has the inside track for the nomination of. The thing that's interesting to me about Lee Zeldin, George, is if Donald Trump was upset with Pam Bondi for not prosecuting more of the people he thought were engaged in extra legal activity for partisan purposes, the kind of thing he was kind of pushing her on in public, Zeldin seems less likely to be that guy, that person. Maybe Donald Trump's just walking away from that and trying to get rid of drama. Maybe sobriety is what he's bringing in and less drama. Maybe.
Yeah. And I mean, like, look, there in general has been, I think the first administration had not an issue, but like in the first year, there was a lot of tumultuousness. In general, a lot has been learned. We have some world-class people. Changes are going to be made, right? I don't think anyone I think there was a season in life and in America where like someone stayed at their job for 30 years and you had cabinet secretaries that were there for 4 or 8 years. That's just not the world that we live in. It's not just Donald Trump. It's just a different world. I don't know if the average person is necessarily tracking who the attorney general is and if it's Pam Bondi or if it's Lee Zeldin, and is that good or bad? I mean, obviously, with Secretary Noem, there was a lot of drama and issues that were there.
It still is.
It still is.
A lot of wake in that drama.
Yes, I'll leave that there. With the attorney general, I mean, ironically, it's. I actually haven't heard a ton recently. It was more about the Epstein files and things, and frankly, it was heat from the right about how things were handled. But that was like weeks and months ago, and so it's interesting, maybe the timing. But we're about, we're a little bit more than a year in, and I think, in general, this would be, the time that changes would be looked to be made. I don't think something like that. I don't think has a electoral impact.
No, I don't either. But it's interesting to speculate about the tenure of this administration going forward, because Donald Trump, I think, is not playing politics anymore. I think he's done with politics. I think he's going for massive legacy. And I'll just put a few – I don't know him. I've never met him. I'll just put a few thoughts together on why I think that. The things he's taken on, the taking on of Iran is there aren't words for it. There are no words for that. The Maduro operation, there are almost no words for that. We're no more than half a day or 12 hours after his speech last night where I'm now seeing stories that they're looking at Cuba. I think he is going for a massive legacy, and in these personnel changes is trying to screw down, tighten the screws on this ship to have the most serious, and I keep using the word sober, people around him as possible. I ran through the break, or I'm running up to the break. Let's pick up on this when we come right back. What's that, Clementine or...
No, actually, this is the theme from Westworld.
Oh, the theme from Westworld.
The one with Yul Brynner, not the new TV show.
Welcome back to the Seth Leibsohn Show. When you hear that kind of music, you know it's time to check in with our dear friend Johnny Estes from CMI Gold and Silver. Johnny Houston Estes. We'll return with George Khalaf after we catch up with Johnny. Johnny Houston Estes, best name I've ever heard. How are you, sir? I have to push the button. Yes, there we go. We'll start over.
Go.
How are you?
I'm doing great. We're kind of busy today, and so we have to call in, but that's probably a good thing because, I didn't want Shannon to come in and embarrass you again like she did last week.
Oh, she didn't embarrass me. I embarrassed myself. I embarrassed myself. If anyone wants to go back and listen to that, Shannon had a civics quiz for me, and I didn't do too terribly well on it.
The civics bee. Well,
yeah, I didn't.
People here listening, they didn't do too well either. So I think you're not in that rowboat alone.
All right.
And I think I'm the one that's steering that boat. So,
well, maybe I can retake the exam, as sometimes a student might say. Tell me what's going on in the gold and silver markets, Johnny.
Well, I was thinking about something, and have you ever heard the Latin phrase called festina lente?
I don't think so.
You
guys just keep quizzing. You just kind of want to keep sending me quizzes.
Oh, my goodness.
All right,
Here
Seth, you failed civics. Let's try Latin. Okay.
Well, it was a favorite term of Augustus and Titus in Rome, right? Okay. But it means to make haste slowly. So, sometimes, like when investing in precious metals or any investment, sometimes moving slower gets you where you want to go faster. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? Or
it does. We have an Aesop's fable on that about a tortoise and a hare, do we not?
Yes, we do. That is exactly what it is, And I always like to tell everybody, don't confuse activity with productivity.
Right.
And so, here we are. We're seeing all-time highs in the metals. It's bouncing around up and down, and there's a lot of this urgency that's being sold out there. And, our message to everybody is, man, just take a breath. Yeah. Slow down.
Yeah.
It's going to be fine, So, I don't know. I mean, the markets are moving around quite a bit still. But things are looking up. We still are seeing signs for a bull market in the metals market, although we may still see gold come back to even 3,800 before it goes up again. But I guess the thing, Seth, is just not to panic. It's okay.
Well, you'd be proud
if you bought it.
You'd be proud of me. I was taking your advice before I knew you. I was with someone last night who, about 45 years ago, gave me a bunch of silver coins as a gift, and I still have them.
Oh, good.
And, boy, the difference in what they would be worth now is then, right? I'm guessing they were probably about $12 or $15 an ounce back then, maybe something like that. I would have been about 13 at the time, I think. Anyway, yeah. But to your point.
But even that, not to burst your bubble, you think about what a gallon of gas was then and a loaf of bread.
Yeah.
So that's why you invest in precious metals, is because exactly that reason. It retains the wealth.
Yeah.
And people need to not confuse wealth with dollars.
Right.
Because here's the reality, Seth. Every paper dollar that you have in your pocket, that kind of represents U.S. debt, doesn't it?
Yes, of course. Of course. Yes.
But every ounce of silver you have represents wealth.
Yeah. It's of course right. By the way, for someone wanting to start, even if they are of some means, do you like introducing people with silver? Do you like silver as a starter investment in precious metals?
I do. It's a much more easy metal to buy. Yeah. It's easier to stomach when you first get into it.
Yeah.
Although every investor has got a little bit different attitude. But silver is my favorite metal of the two metals because it's a cooler metal. I think it's so reflective, and it's used in industry. It's used in medical. It's awesome. You can get colloidal silver at the health food store.
Colloidal silver, absolutely medicinal, right?
Yeah,
absolutely,
for sure.
Well, I love it. Let me wish you a very meaningful Holy Weekend, sir. You and your family.
Yep, you too. And I look forward to hearing more of your show here because it's doing real good. So
thank you, Johnny.
Love the content.
Let me plug your show, Johnny on the Spot. Tell people when they can hear it.
Saturday morning, 7:30, right here on KKNT.
Fabulous. Go get them. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Seth Leibsohn Show, coming to you live from the YRefi.com studios. My guest is George Khalaf. He is not only a political consultant and polling expert and pollster, he is a candidate for State House of Representatives here in Legislative District 3 in Arizona. George, I want to go back to something we were discussing. I want to bring up something also having to do with the intersection of culture when it impinges on a discussion involving political double standards and athletics. But first, why don't we take a quick phone call? Is that okay?
Let's do it.
All right. Bruce in Mesa. Bruce, you're on with George Khalaf.
Hi, Seth. Hi, George. This is a pleasure to talk to you, sir.
Thank you. Good talking to you.
I had a quick comment about the replacement for Pam Bondi as Attorney General, and I'm a big fan of Harmeet Dillon, and I'd like to get your take on that.
Well, I think more highly of. I don't know if anyone thinks more highly of her than I do. I think she is a spectacular advocate in the courtroom. I think she is a spectacular legal mind. I think her work as Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights is non-pareil. And that has tended to be her area of expertise of late. It was election law and civil rights. And I think of her as I think of some of the great Department of Justice Attorney Generals, Assistant Secretaries for Assistant Attorney Generals for Civil Rights. Robert Kennedy's Department of Justice had a tremendous team. Ronald Reagan's had a tremendous team. Harmeet Dillon is, as far as I'm concerned, right in that very league. I don't know that I've seen her name thrown around much, but she is a superstar. George, I don't know.
Yeah, she would be amazing. She's tough as nails. She's articulate. She is
nonsense, no drama.
For sure, no nonsense, no drama, and she has political prowess, so she's able to maneuver right with the run that she had, and she ran for RNC.
That's right.
She's a known commodity for better or for worse. I would love to hear her name be discussed. I haven't seen it yet, but she's top notch. Yeah,
she may not want it. She may not want it. There's no question in my mind on a short list her name would have been there, but she may not want it. Go ahead, Bruce.
Well, the other part of it, I was thinking, politically, we're talking politics today exclusively. So politically, as a strategy, I mean, they can't call her a misogynist racist.
Oh, sure they
They can, but it would be very difficult.
Yeah, I think she would be the Democrats, from a political strategy standpoint, she would be the Democrats' worst nightmare.
If Donald Trump, the father of an Orthodox Jewish daughter and grandfather of Jewish children, can be a Nazi and worse than Hitler, can you imagine? I don't know how much Teflon Harmeet Dillon has. Yeah.
Yeah, point taken. Very much so, yeah.
Just if Larry Elder can be the black face of white supremacy.
Yeah.
I mean, they say wild things, but you're right, Bruce. It would make it a lot harder. And of course, she just has a command of the law, has built a great team, and has done just tremendous work at DOJ.
Yeah,
100%.
But she may prefer what she's doing. The Attorney General's job is, in many respects, less fun than the job she has now.
Yeah. Very different.
Yeah.
You're much more in the public eye, obviously, even though she's not afraid of the public eye. So it's not a thing of fear or uncomfortableness.
She may not want the administrative portfolio that it goes with.
Yeah.
But a good name. I'm glad you brought it up, Bruce.
Yes, you bet.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Anyway, George, what I was saying earlier was I sometimes think of late that Donald Trump is not making political calculations anymore, and he's playing for big legacy. Venezuela, Iran, Cuba, other things, energy independence, other things.
Yeah.
Which, if I'm right, and I don't know if I am, if I'm right, is probably cold comfort to a lot of the tough congressional and Senate races across the country. But that's my sense anyway.
But I'm going to say something that, of course, Democrats are going to hate. But Republicans, I think people, especially Republicans, we've long pleaded for a leader, for a president who is willing to make tough decisions. Right. And when you say a line of he's not making things just on political calculus, he's making legacy things that are that are sort of good, right, and there's a whole bunch of things that could fall into that category. Is that not what we've always desired? Right?
See, we say we want that.
Yeah.
We say
100%.
we want conviction politicians.
Because I'll tell you what the alternative is, right? For those that are complaining, what the alternative is, that you have a president or senator or congressman or woman who sees a polling report and then does what the polling report says, sees a polling report and stops doing what the polling report says not to do. That's not going to cut it in today's day and age, because there's a whole bunch of things that 5, 6, 7 years ago, if you asked DEI, it was sky high and it was popular and this and that until it wasn't. Well, it takes courageous leaders to say things when they're unpopular. And he sure as heck is willing to do and say things that are unpopular in the moment. Whether you agree with everything that he does, that's not the point. The point is he is a unique leader in being able to do that. And I desire him to do more of that. And he does also have a unique ability of holding coalitions together. The question is always on my mind is like, okay, in 5 years and in 10 years, where will we be? Can we continue this? Can we continue this coalition, even if you lose some, you gain some? Again, politics is never zero sum. It's never static, meaning that like not in any given moment are you going to have everybody always love what's happening, especially when you're making tough decisions. And so, I think we, I'll say this sort of tongue in cheek, be careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
We've long desired a president who was not just making decisions out of political calculus.
Yeah. And it may not be the kind of cement that makes for a long-lasting coalition. I don't know. You had made the point earlier in the show today that Donald Trump is so sui generis, so unique, unprecedented as a political leader, that the coalition that he built itself may be as unique as he is, and it may not have last. Ronald Reagan built a tremendously interesting coalition, and, part of it lasted and part of it didn't.
Yes. But Seth, there's very little that motivates me more than the theory or this idea that speaking bold truth is going to win at the end of the day.
Its own reward,
And it's going to win because you're speaking truth. It's going to win because there is nothing true but the truth in the long term. It's going to win because in the face of darkness, light is going to have to prevail. It is stronger. It's going to win because common sense is prevailing in this nation. It's going to win because American independence and our mindset as people yearns for that common sense, and bold leaders like Donald Trump, like President Trump, who give cover, who give encouragement to other boldness, which is what has happened, is no matter with anything else, not just as necessary. We would not be where we were today had it not been for that, and we won't be where we need to be in 10 years if it was not for that.
I think that's beautifully said. It reminds me of something Dennis Prager used to say about when he would engage in public debates, like big debates, one-on-one debates. And he would say, I never really think about how to win the debate. I make sure I tell the truth. And if you make sure you tell the truth, you will win.
100%. That's it. That's it.
Can I get an update on your campaign when we come right back?
Let's do it.
All right. George Khalaf is my guest. GeorgeKhalaf.com. KHALAF if you want to learn more about him or help him out. It's an important race. As you can see, he would be a tremendous credit to our state legislature. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Seth Leibsohn Show. George Khalaf is my guest. It's a delight to have him, and it's a delight to have you in the race for the state legislature. GeorgeKhalaf.com. Tell us, we've talked about national politics. Tell us a little bit about your race.
The race is going well. I was excited to announce earlier this week that the Phoenix Police Sergeants and Lieutenants Association endorsed my campaign. They represent 400 supervisors in the city of Phoenix. That's a big deal. And I've got another exciting law enforcement endorsement that I'm going to tease that will be out this coming week. We announced that we have raised total in this campaign $117,000, which is a large sum of money for a non-swing district race, right? I'm not in District 2 for some of these races where there's a cutthroat general. This is just for the primary, so I'm very proud of that, very blessed. Grassroots support continues to grow. Meet and greets, daily events, lots of really good momentum. And again, I love learning about new things. I went to an agricultural breakfast last week. I've gone to neighborhood coffees. I'm going to go to pancake breakfast at the firehouse. Like just not just meeting new people, but learning about things that I'm not just necessarily always in every day.
Yeah.
Right. Like
Yeah.
my background is not as an agriculturalist, right? But learning about the work that, for example, the Farm Bureau is doing or our cattle folks are doing is so important for me because one, I love being a student, so I love to learn. And two, I want to be able to, as a member, when I'm approached with a problem, be able to be well versed enough to, at a minimum, through my networks or through sort of my understanding, help lead them to a solution if I'm not able to, or lead them to a person who can provide the solution if I'm not able to do so myself. That's a really important thing from like a constituent services perspective. And so I take that very seriously.
I'm glad you put it that way. I think a lot of these groups get lumped in all together as negative to the political process, and they aren't. They aren't, because you can't expect every political leader to be an expert in the hundreds of issues that affect daily life or affect political life. They are, in many respects, in many decisive respects, there to educate, there to help, so that when you have a constituent with an issue there, you will know something about it or know where to send them. I've thought they were important to the political process as much as Alexis de Tocqueville did.
Yeah, 100%. And the issue of water, there's a lot that's coming to a head right now that affects the district, that of course affects our state. I mean, again, so much to do. Look, there are days where I wake up, it's tough. I'm not going to lie to anybody. I mean, anybody who knows someone who's running for office or has known someone, it is not for the faint of heart. It does give me joy. I know this is God's calling on my life. Brianna and I are in this together, and so is my entire family. But we'll always appreciate folks' prayers because it's a lot of work. And when you're in the public eye, we know what that comes with. That comes with a lot of sniping from people that would rather you not speak the truth.
Well, that's why we respect you so much the more so, George Khalaf. Again, GeorgeKhalaf.com, Khalaf. Help him out. Help our state out. Help our state legislature out, and you'll help our state out. All right, thank you. We are going to go to who? Big Ed Morrissey next.